Mr Deputy Speaker, I was really excited to witness for the first time as a member of this place His Majesty deliver his first most gracious speech. I turned up last week eager to hear the government's comprehensive and ambitious plans for the parliamentary session. But what the government had to offer was nothing short of threadbare. Perhaps if the Prime Minister had spent less time on the phone to his predecessors trying to get them to come and save his skin, he could have been drawing up a plan to get our country building again and helping working people get on the housing ladder. Sadly, there is a complete absence of home building in the government's legislative programme. The aspiration to own one's own home is one that sits strongly in the British people. It's not just an aspiration to own property, it's an aspiration for security, a roof over your head, over your family's head, a solid foundation upon which to build your future. But far too many are today locked out of this ambition, watching as the dream of owning your own home is eroded by soaring inflation, record high energy bills and the highest tax burden on the British people since the post-war period. The British people don't lack ambition. They know the potential that exists in their communities, but we must in here take the decisions that meet their ambition out there. Getting the balance right between green space and building what we need is vital, and it can be done. The agricultural industry is so important to my constituents. Our farmland doesn't just contribute to the local and national economy, it keeps the country fed. And we can protect our farmers and their land while also finding space to build the homes we need for the future. A greenbelt policy that protects disused car parks while green spaces are handed over to developers simply doesn't work. The grey belt space is there, often adding nothing, and in some cases blighting our communities. We must have the ambition to use it. So I say to the Prime Minister, in West Lancashire, we are open for business. Skelmersdale is the most populated area in my constituency, with around 40,000 people making Skem their home. But when the spades first entered the ground in Skelmersdale in the 1960s, the new town was intended to provide homes for over 80,000 people. 60 years later, we've not reached that number. We've got the potential to deliver the homes we need to realise the aspirations of a modern Britain, but we cannot do that without the critical infrastructure that sits alongside it and has too often been ignored in recent developments. Human beings need more than just a roof over our heads. We need connectivity, services, community. Skelmersdale has been without a train station since 1958, 3 years before it was designated a new town. It's one of the largest towns in the entire country without a station and is the perfect candidate for levelling up funds. It's received none. Projects like a new railway station in Skem would constitute a genuinely new offer for transport regeneration in the North West. Claims that the government are levelling up through investment in Network North project are also frankly laughable. Despite fanfare and promises, there's little on offer for communities like mine. The now Prime Minister once boasted about changing the public funding formulas to divert funding away from deprived urban communities to more prosperous towns. Since, communities crying out for investment have seen more of the same. Take a cursory glance at some of the projects referenced in the government's Network North proposals and you'll find many of them already exist. But it's not just our trains that aren't working. So devoid of ideas and vision for this country, this government sent their own MPs home early on half of parliamentary sitting days in the last session. And there are no signs of this changing with the King's Speech. The King's Speech contains the fewest new bills in almost a decade. The sad reality of the situation is the Prime Minister has no confidence in his government to get legislation through Parliament. He doesn't even trust his own MPs enough to make one of them the Foreign Secretary. But even worse than that, the Prime Minister seemingly has no confidence in himself. Like King Midas on opposite day, everything he touches turns to disaster. It's clear the government have given up on governing. So why don't we let the British people decide at a general election? Hear, hear. Hear, hear.